Hey everyone, welcome back. Moving along with my presentation here, I believe now we're at part 5. I left off talking about Gabriel and what happened with him, my sister's baby. Really good, cute kid, born to a Dominican man. And like I said, I was like, teaching him how to walk, and like he was really coming along good, progressing, actually starting to say things, like around 1.5 years old. And he came back from an appointment one day, and like for weeks and weeks, he would just look at me and cry. He could he'd pick up used to be able to hit baskets from across the room. He couldn't even like throw the ball. It was that obvious. And all this because of my stupid, retarded, mind-controlled Department of Justice, counter-terror, Guantanamo Bay, torture, stinky sister. Wanted to take this kid to get vaccinated. And like, I honestly think that she probably has other kids out there and she doesn't even care about this kid. And it was like all part of, basically, now this becomes a full-time job for my poor mother, who's already dealt with she already dealt with my sister's mess years ago. She already dealt with my mess, and she doesn't need any more drama in her life. And now it's like her life is consumed in a living hell because of some Dominican FBI plant, wants to impregnate my sister to hold us hostage and waste our time. Like, I don't mean to be disrespectful to Gabriel. Like I said, he's a good kid. Life, on this earth is a blessing. He's still he's 3.5 years old and can't talk at all. Like, they have him every day, 4 days a week in therapy. Can't say anything. He was saying more and doing better at 1.5 than he was at 3.5. That's just the truth. I mean, if this was some kind of retaliation, I almost believe that like part of it was from the Russian mafia and other people. I'm going to get into this later. But like, because of the Guantanamo Bay stuff and like all the atrocities of the United States government, it's like you deserve what you get when you do this. Like when you want to go into places like Iraq and Afghanistan, like violating innumerable, rules of military conduct, rules of engagement. Like these people should be put on military tribunals. It's as simple as that. We need to have military tribunals. But yeah, unfortunately, my mom has to deal with this all the time. We've been held captive and hostage. Hopefully, like, by the end of this presentation, a moving van will show up, and like a world consortium of people will help my mom and I escape. And like we can go to eventually maybe the Third Temple, wherever. Maybe talk to some people who actually are like intelligent people. Get out of this fake Bush-controlled town with Texas oil German Jew thugs. So anyhow, I told you, like, around that same time, like, there was many things that culminated into the nukes that started flying. And they did. Like I said, you can see that, like, there's dense air, thick air. Like, this time I'm tweaking out. Like I said, like, my alchemy started screaming. I mean, like, I knew exactly what was going. Everything was just coming to me, like, it wasn't. It was like it was insane. It was absolutely like one of the most like, I have no words for this time of my life. Like, it was one of the most memorable things that I'll never forget. And like, someday I hope to tell my kids about this. And I when I came back here, like I said, there was a takeover in this fake little town, and I actually saw a mass grave of burning bodies and smelled it. I like didn't walk up and see him, but I know that's like I have reason to believe that that's what it was. And like, they killed off a lot of good people and implanted, like I said, government plants. And a lot of people are underground. They know that they can't match the hypersonic arsenal of the Russians, the Chinese, others. And like I said, the Hollow Earth people, I believe, years ago, once the United States decided it wanted to be, I guess, preach war as its diplomatic philosophy around the world, these people had no choice but to come out, breed with like the Chinese and Russians, and then these people would go into their military-industrial complex and give them like all this information. And also, I talked about in the past how I believe like they crashed UFOs so that the Area 51, so the U.S. would steal it, find this technology like microchips and stuff, back engineer it, and then build a complete system where everything's based on this technology that it could be hacked. And like, that's my opinion. So I told you my alchemy started screaming, and so about that time, like I said, my guess is the world knew what was going on. Like with Trump and the Zionists, they knew for years that this was coming, and that he was going to, try to start World War III. He probably knew that it would go underground, and like I said, everybody's been preparing for wars for many, many years. I can't imagine, what massive facilities they have underground. To be honest with you, I almost think that it's impossible to build like a complete safe fallout shutter. I think that maybe for a while it would be, but like when you understand like the 242 and like gold is 99 on the periodic table, like like uranium, plutonium is like 199 to 242 or something like that. Like that's up in the 200s, I believe. And like it's going to sink to the very lowest points. Like in males, it goes to your testicles, like when it goes in your body, and also to the bottom, like your ankles, feet. You're going to start seeing a lot of people have issues with like ankles and like feet, just fractures. Like radiation does what it does best, destroys tissue. And anyhow, so yeah, like I said, I can't emphasize enough the Italian Catholics also involved in this, and they try to, like I said, start their own little monarchy. Is basically what it was. And you see now why Trump's moron followers are so loyal, because they know that he started a war, and they know that, like, okay, if he's not going to take it, then he's eventually going to go down as like worse than Adolf Hitler, especially if what I'm saying comes out on top of that. I mean, it's bad. It's really, really bad. I mean, there's not going to be forgiveness here. Like, there's not going to be, like I said, a kumbaya. Oh, we're friends, and everybody sings along. And the Bible says that Michael will slay the dragon. Most interpret this as it's China, but I can tell you that I don't believe it is. Like, I really believe it's the United States, or it's like the banks, the Zionist banks, I believe, are the dragon. So Congress, okay, like, so then, like all this stuff I'm telling you, then it correlates to me. And like, I started, like I said, going off the chain, like, I'm like ready for like Armageddon or something at this point. And to the Congress of the United States, the Department of Justice, like people, like my sister's superiors, this this evil, thick German Jew chick that worked there at the time, they had kids stolen from me, and thought it would be a good idea because they stole kids from me. Then, okay, let's kill him off. And then, we're Jews, and he doesn't like Jews, so let's kill him off. And then, like I said, make it look like he's the bad guy. Basically, is what it came down to. And they had a secret meeting, and like I said, my alchemy told me this, and I know that this was happened. Like, I'm not even going to like debate this with anybody. If you, like I said, you can stop watching at any time. And they had like a flowering ceremony. Okay, so like Barron was there. It was like this whole point was Barron, and like the fact that he has autism just goes to show that, like, even if he was anything special, they wanted to cross him in with other people and they kill him off. They don't give two F's about him. He's named after Baron Rothschild, by the way, and like he's probably even smart enough in his autistic diagnosed brain, if that's really what happened to him, to actually to know that they don't give an F about him. And like I said, there was a flowering ceremony. So like, they had like all the clones, a whole bunch of other prominent people, probably from ExxonMobil, probably from Lockheed Martin, probably from, like a whole list. People, last name Adams, that, they signed the Declaration of Independence. And, this is 270 years is the epitome of the whole entire history of God's creation to these people. Like, that's what they think, So anyhow, they had a flower, and like during this, they knew that, like, okay, the nukes are going off, so like they were like collecting genetics as well, like basically collecting sperm for freezing, because they knew that like either they were going to go under, like they had to basically take it now while they still could, while like everything was like not deeply impacted by fallout. So it was like several purposes of this. It was like a ritualistic ceremony, and I really believe that this was at the National Cathedral that this happened. The National Cathedral, like I said, with ex nihilo right out front. Like I said, right out of Devil's Advocate. It obviously didn't create the rapture. It obviously didn't create the singularity. And like I said, if Trump, the fact that he lost, obviously shows that this wasn't favorable in the eyes of the world. And so, yes, like I said, they're doing this. And like the in between here where I live in this little fake garrison town, they have hyper trains or whatever, hyper speed trains that can probably make it to like Washington, D.C. in like 30 minutes, something like this. And like people, like even my own father was at this ceremony, from what I gathered. Like that just goes to show like how deep stinky my family. Like, they wrote me off dead years ago, and like now they know that I'm not coming back, and I get the last laugh, and I can tell you it feels amazing. I love it, every second of it. And like I said, like this whole thing turned into a huge lesson of honor. And like the whole what it all boils down to, folks, is to live with honor and to die with honor is everything. And like like the consciousness that we carry in this life will directly impact the next level of consciousness that God has in store for us. Think of it as like this is like AAA baseball league. There's other levels and dimensions of consciousness much above this, I assure you. And so yes, Trump was there. And like I said before, the Bush bunkers and all the other bunkers are isolated. Like most of them are connected through like an underground highway system. And there's like different tiers. And like the deeper you go, the more important you are. Like there's like, like I would say almost the first tier, they know that like the fallout would hit that first eventually. Eventually those people are going to be killed off. It's just like the bank robbery scene from The Dark Knight, where like at the end there's only a couple people that are left standing. And so like after this ceremony, then Trump goes and hides in the Bush bunker in the Sun Belt. And this is like one of the most massive ones in the entire country, like right in the dead center there. They probably thought that they were just safe and nobody would ever see them, find them, remote view them. But yes, they were in the Sun Belt. And there was like I said, even worse than this is like I said, there was like five of the 12 imperial Chinese bloodlines there that turned on China, their own country. Jack Ma was one of them that was there. Jack Ma, and China, I don't think knew that Jack Ma was there. He like disappeared, and like there's a whole bunch of other ones that are stinky. Now what happened is these 5 are like vexed from the 12 like the imperial Chinese bloodlines, and that's a big deal in like the gamut of history. And these people betrayed the motherland of China, and like I said, they wanted to fly. They'd be happy flying an American flag and thinking that Trump was a god. And like I said, tell me one quote or anything of substance the man's done, and I'll hear you. And like I haven't found anybody that could answer that, to be honest with you. Usually they give me some bullshit answer that doesn't fly, and I shoot it right down. So these people are evil and want communism completely, like complete 2-class system is what they want. Just like people that are almost like are like don't even have a gender, don't have a soul. They're just like born to do a job. They live till about 40 or 50, then they're killed off, and then like you basically like they'll like clone new people to replace you, and like you don't have a last name, you don't have a lineage, you don't have like a legacy, you don't have identity. It's like I said, you're just a complete soulless void robot slave. And so another thing that they did so much crap to me over the years that just like now I know what they were doing. And I put I picked this up over time. And like, what they would do is they would put like the clones in front of me. And like, I guess to see if I talked to them or liked them. And like, they classify this as natural selection. Like they would say, oh, natural selection is important. And like, that's not natural selection. Like, if you like, let me take you into a back room and do you know what? Like maybe that's another thing. But like, no, in vitro fertilization is like, does not qualify. Like I would almost go as far to say that, like I said, it's like, the tree of knowledge or something like this. It's something that's not meant to be touched. Like there's a reason that sexual intercourse is so like amazing, and like there's just something magic about conception when like 2 people have experienced climax. It's like you understand the body electric and the magnetism. It's something much deeper. Like there's like basically like pressure, magnetism, like magnetism, pressure, and gravity are all like complements of each other, and like you can't conceive in outer space. There's like something magic, a spark that happens during conception. And they know this. So at this point, I'm thinking the world's going to end with a nuclear winter, like everything. Like I'm like, going crazy. And like, I'm like in like fight or flight response. Like I started like getting all this stuff prepped around here, like buying a whole bunch of rice and this and that. And like, so I decided to get out. Like I was told about Denmark being an amazing country. And there's this place there called Freetown. It's like a 6-hectare community. Doesn't have any form of government. It's like it's like a hippie community. It's like annexed. And I went to Denmark, stayed there for 2 weeks. Absolutely loved it. Amazing place. Queen Margaret, actually an amazing leader. She deserves like a lifetime achievement award. One of the safest places I've ever felt in my life. People there, the most beautiful genetics probably in the world. Some of them close to it anyhow. Intelligent, just nothing like America. Huge, the biggest middle class in the world, depending on how you measure it. So I go to Denmark, which is like kind of like a neutral location. There's like it's kind of like a cross between Germany, the Netherlands, the UK, Russia, and there's other influences as well. It's really, really interesting there. So after that, I went to Kazakhstan, Almaty, Kazakhstan. There's a ski resort there I stayed at, and so it's controlled by it's called Shalenbach. It's controlled by Spare Bank, which like I thought like, a Russian bank, whatever. Later I found out that Spare Bank has a 2% stake from Vanguard. Like Vanguard Corporation has a 2% stake. There were clones there. And, like this whole thing is like really stinky at this point. Like since this time, I've had to like work a full-time job convincing the Russians, like A, not to cross my genetics, into the stolen genetics to like attempt to like override what I'm doing, and B, that like, you know, this is like something that's like it really like is not good for the reputation of Russia. Like that, like, you know, we're better than this, and we don't need stolen genetics. And I've wanted to leave the country for years. So here's a side story. So like I told you, there's always people that just seem to magically be around, and okay, so like I'm in the airport at Denmark, getting ready to go to Kazakhstan, and I'm approached by this like straight Russian mafia guy, and you can tell the difference between like fake Russian mafia people and real Russian. The real ones, like this is basically how you can tell. They walk like they have a 12-inch Peter, and that like nobody can mess with them. Like they have just a swagger, and like I said, you know. So I sat in the airport. We were like drinking beers for like several hours, and talking, and like. I have my alchemy book with me, my thing like that, and he said like, and he's talking to me out of like nobody else has ever came to me and been cool. Like this guy actually came to me and was like straight up what was going on. And anyhow, he said, he showed me a picture of something, and he said, "Do you know what this is?" And I looked at my alchemy book, and it was like a torture device. It was like an electrode that was used as a torture device in Guantanamo Bay. Basically, is what I came up with. Like to basically try to like get a response out of people. Like, you know, when you're torturing somebody to like, yo, what did you say? No, this is again. What did you say? Oh, I'll tell you. Like that. Like that's what they would use it for. And I told him that. He took it and threw it across the airport, like pissed off. Like, you know, like basically after, you know, the United States went into Iraq and Afghanistan, these poor innocent Muslims had to go to China and Russia, like, for help. I have presentations that talk about the Iraq and Afghanistan war crimes, and like also about how the United States used nuclear weapons in Iraq and Afghanistan. So, like I said, that guy was pretty interesting. He also gave me a passport stamp, this little stamp. It was like a shipping merchant stamp. And he told me that you can use this to stamp it like basically on your ticket or your passport or something, and that you can go like you don't need a visa in transit. I never used it because I don't want to have my passport taken from me, but it probably would work, to be honest with you, from like what I've, like intelligence I've gathered. But I don't really need it. Like I said, I prefer to live like an upright, upstanding life. You know, there's no room in this modern world for like the example set by the Italian mafia. Like, you know what I mean? Like all these movies, think about how much of a detriment, like The Sopranos, how much of a negative impact this has had on like corrupting our youth. Like generations that grew up watching Goodfellas and Casino, thinking that this was like perfectly cool to like steal from people and be a thug. And you know, like I said, I talked about okay, so like I told you I wanted to leave the country. So after 23 days abroad, I came home, and I just, you know, I didn't want to come, like I didn't want to just spend all my money. I wanted to come home while I still had money left, and like, yeah, I've been very deeply suppressed, or I would have already been out of this country before. I truly believe that they know this, that like if I had enough money, I would have left this country years ago, and that's why they don't let me have any money, especially now that they know that I have the ability to control the ionosphere and that we're in the middle of nuclear warfare. And when I came home, I made it my mission to expose and destroy Donald Trump and his fake family. And like it came to my mind, it's very evident that if he won again, that Junior was going to run in 2024, and if Trump won a second term, it would have been 2 more terms of Junior, then his other kids after that, then who knows? I mean, that's what they had planned. Like, it's not like a matter of opinion, and like, if you know my channel, you just know that I am just completely infatuated with George Washington and his persona, and the fact that he like knew, like they wanted to make him king, and he knew, and like you know, like I said, modern people, they say that these people, like the founders, were tyrants. If George Washington was a tyrant, you know, or a radical, I guess you could say, then why, you know, he would have chose to be king. That's what I say to you people, pretty much. And so, okay, like before all this happened, I wanted to tell you too, like the power of this is pretty amazing. Like one time I did a night ride in Alexandria, Virginia, which is like, it actually goes back to like the Ku Klux Klan. Like I'm not, like this is not part of that. Like but what they do is they throw flyers out in people's driveway. You can't put them in mailboxes, but you're allowed to put like a flyer in a plastic bag with some pebbles in it and throw it at the end of the driveway. It's like completely illegal. You put it in the mailbox, the FBI will show up at your door. Anyhow, so I go to Alexandria, Virginia. Like the average home's like into the millions. Like these people are intelligent people. A lot of them are warmongers. So it's like a 60-40, or I'd say 70-30, 60-40. It can go either way. But like there's like I made up this flyer, like putting all these questions on there about Trump. Like, why is nobody asking this, and this? And I had a picture of Epstein, Trump, and Melania on it. And like about 2 weeks later, Epstein supposedly kills himself. And like I have reason to believe that he didn't kill himself, that Trump got him out of there, and that Ghilslaine, I don't even know if she was in jail. I think that she's in Florida hiding out. Like I said, the whole thing is like it's BS. But I consider that to be a win in a sense. I mean, it would have been nice to see him take a stand if he had to, but the whole thing is much bigger. Like I said, per Ted Gunderson and the national security thing. Like literally, it's huge, and so Epstein, like I said, realized that it was much easier to start cloning programs than basically to bring girls here on visas. And I started going to Washington D.C. with a poster. And like this poster, I can guarantee you Trump never wants to see this again. I used to stand right out in front of Trump National, which he recently sold because he's a disgraced mess. And like, you want to go on Pennsylvania Avenue? Remember, this is my Pennsylvania. Okay, so why is nobody asking him these questions? And you see my favorite one is say no to silver spoons. Don Jr. Anyhow, yeah, like it's a whole mess. Like, how are we going to make America great again with $2 trillion in debt? Where are your offshore banking interests? Why won't you release your financial records? How many of your country club friends are pedophiles? What have you done in 3 years, to deserve re-election? And I put on there, stop Ukrainian sex cloning, and Zio Global Truth, and like just connected all these dots. And like what was his major accomplishment? $14 an hour jobs. He's a communist. Like I said, he's touted as being this amazing money man. And like, I don't even think he really was that good of a money man. Like supposedly he came, he rose from the ashes of bankruptcy twice. Now, like with all due respect, I will say this. I saw him like when I was very, very young, way before he was president, at a motivational speaking event by Tony Robbins. And one piece of advice, he's like, okay, so this little story he said he was walking down the streets of Atlantic City one night with Ivana. And he said, I saw a homeless man. And he said, I pointed to him and I said, you see that man there? And she said, yes. She said, he has $130 million more than me. And she looked at me and knew that he didn't have $130 million. Basically, the point is that like, you're better off having nothing than having debt in a sense. And then like, I guess the number two thing that he would say is teaches prenuptial agreements. But, anyhow, during that time, so I would take the sign to the Capitol. I would take it to Trump National. I would take it to the White House. And like, I truly believe that like the whole Black Lives, like basically Trump, like towards the end of his whole presidency, he came out, started like acting like he wanted to start a war with China. And Robert De Niro kept like saying all the time for years and years that Trump was going to try to start a World War III to basically to do like FDR did, where like there can't be an election or something like that, or like basically to attempt to thwart the election. And like I said, he may be sitting underground right now in some vault with military controlling things. Like these people in Short Hills, New Jersey, I can't even begin to tell you how much money they have. Carl Icahn, Jared Kushner's father, these people are thugs. And like fake Russian, like they basically disgraced the real Russian mafia. And like, they really can't touch me if they wanted to. Like I'm way above them in the eyes of like the Russians and other globalists, China, the Germans. Like the whole, it's turning into like a big unbalanced dogfight in the end here, because truth will always win, like I said. So I met a gentleman named Filippo. He has been at the anti-nuclear proliferation peace tent in Washington D.C. since 1981, and I consider him to be like an expert on the topic of nuclear warfare. That's before I was born. That's 40 years now. And they tried to shut him down like 56 times. So I have two presentations on my channel. I did one's a segment of the first presentation war stories. If you go to that, it's pretty cool. Like, because it wasn't all just based on like negative stuff about the U.S. But we both like I told him that I believe that there's nuclear warfare going on. He said he stopped me. He was like, Nagasaki and Hiroshima were not the only times nuclear weapons were used in warfare. And he said they were actually used in Iraq and Afghanistan by the United States. They were like little torpedoes. They were like little miniature nuclear weapons. And like they couldn't, the United States, the white trash military, I guess, didn't want to go through the hills of Afghanistan. So they decided to, that was an ethical way, I guess. And like, I really believe that they were like, in my other presentation, before I even knew that, like, I believe what they were doing is like, to keep, like, this whole thing was like Fox News was just like played an evil, nefarious part in this whole thing and selling this to the American people. And I really believe what they had to do to keep the war going on is like antagonize these people, like bomb their schools and bomb like churches or like mosques and like, attack innocent people. And like, that's what they were doing. And like a lot of, I've also heard that like, the military, like, first off, I believe that the vaccines the military takes are like cancer vaccines. Like, they don't really care about them. And I also believe that some of them were sent to actually just on suicide missions. They were sent to die. And like this also happened to Vietnam too. Like I said, like it's like all in this neat. Like if you ever get a chance, watch the movie or the music video for Metallica 1, and it really basically says it. Metallica 1. And a side note, I'm not really a big fan of Metallica anymore. They're like if there was a picture of a band in a dictionary next to the phrase "sellout band," it would be Metallica. I used to love them. Been to many concerts, amazing times, and. The funny thing is, like I said, this turned into like this huge lesson in honor. And like, if anything, like that was like what I want to take out of this whole thing. It's like, okay, so I started thinking to myself, like, what the hell is it about Trump that like I just can't stand? And what it is that when he gets up and and started talking, his words are just complete BS. Like, there was absolutely no honor in his words. Like Biden, I do not really care for, to be honest with you. Biden. But at least like Biden's words reflect honor, like whatever you want to say. You can tell like it's really interesting when you start to digress this into like who has it and who doesn't have it, and like it's really what like the essence of life is, and like it goes even deeper. Like I said, consciousness. But when Trump, like my Theory of Everything presentation series, like immediately as soon as he got out, like all of it came to me within like a week. It was like next to the whole thing with like when the nukes started flying. That was like pretty profound. Like it was like this amazing increase in knowledge that I have no words for. I guess you could call it enlightenment. But just watch that series and then try to say I'm crazy or whatever. So another thing I wanted to mention that I forgot in the past, I also have a presentation on my grandfather, Alfred Granick, naval code breaker. I have one with like my great grandfather George Vogel. I forgot I could not leave out him because like in my opinion, my mother's family is like or like my mother's side. Even though there's like aunts and uncles that I have that have him as a grandfather as well, or I mean cousins I have that have him as a grandfather. You get what I'm saying, and like connecting the whole thing. I told you before that like this guy Dr. Coggins in Greenville, the DuPont family, some Italian mafia mushroom farmers. Johnson and Johnson, Trump, Epstein, the royal family, like all these are connected in this little area. Like if you want, like look up St. Anne's School in outside of Wilmington. Like this is one of the schools that they like basically teach these clones. And like this really pissed Russia off because they probably named it after Anne, my grandmother. It's like, you don't fucking do that. Second off, they like this is like a Roman Catholic school. And like what do you think they teach about Russia there? That that they're evil, that who knows. And this whole thing, I can't emphasize enough that there's certain rules, like it's like Jewish law, like Kabbalika it's called or something like that. Like it's like, does anybody care about the rules here, as John Goodman said in The Big Lebowski. But yes, there's certain rules that just cannot be broken. And like also Barron, I really believe that like to pacify the African Americans in this country, they had him like basically fornicate with African American girls, and like that was like basically violates a huge Jewish law. Tattoos is another one. I'm not going to get into that too much right here. Anyhow, I believe we're going on to presentation 6. I look forward to finishing this up for you folks. Thanks for staying with me.